Hello, hi everyone. We are slightly early, so I'll just give it a couple of seconds for people to join. But whilst we do so, I'll do a quick intro. So, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, whether that's live or whether you're listening to the recording. So, my name's Olivia. I am the Vendor and Alliances Manager here at Amazic, and I have the absolute pleasure of being joined by Blair from Unleash. So, during this session, we'll explore a little bit about feature management and how it can help teams release faster, reduce risk, and increase control. Before we begin, a little bit of housekeeping. So, today's session is recorded and will be shared with you afterwards. And we also have a short Q&A at the end of the session. So, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask, and we will endeavour to answer as many as possible. So, with that, we'll get started and I will hand over to Blair.
Awesome. Thank you, Olivia. Share my screen. All right. Looks good.
Perfect. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks. Hi, everyone. As Olivia said, my name is Blair. I lead partnerships at Unleash. We're a relatively new partner of Amazic, so I'm excited to get to introduce you to Unleash as a product and probably more importantly, FeatureOps and feature management and how that can fit into your business. I know that you're talking to a lot of vendors and you're onboarding a lot of vendors. So my hope this session, at the end of the session, you're a little bit more familiar with Unleash and FeatureOps as a practice. So getting started, what is Unleash? Unleash is a FeatureOps platform that's trusted by some of the world's largest companies, but it's also trusted by some of the world's most agile companies. And you may be asking yourself, what the heck is FeatureOps? I've heard of DevOps. Is it the same? FeatureOps at its core brings technologies like feature flags and feature management, and it couples it with engineering best practices to form the foundation for how every top engineering organizations deliver software both quickly and safely. And because it's 2026, and you can't do a webinar without talking about AI, I will quickly plug in with generative AI driving a massive surge in code velocity. The importance of a practice like FeatureOps is only growing. And I'll share a couple of stories of why even the most advanced DevOps teams haven't found a faster way to recover from production issues than using feature flags, which, like I said, is kind of the core of FeatureOps as a practice. So we can look at a really advanced DevOps organization like Google as a big cautionary tale here. If you'll remember, last year they suffered a huge global outage that traced back to one backend change that wasn't flag protected. And in their post-mortem, they clearly stated if this had been flag protected, it would have been caught in staging. This mistake, which was just a simple mistake, cost them and their customers, and probably likely you and some of your customers, hundreds of millions of dollars. And that is why feature flags are endorsed by DevOps thought leaders such as Martin Fowler at ThoughtWorks. It is quoted in Google's own site reliability engineering handbook, as well as AWS's well-architected framework. DORA cites it as a near ubiquitous practice within high-performing organizations. And that should just highlight kind of the importance of FeatureOps as a practice and feature flag use cases within DevOps as a lifecycle. And then, like I said, AI, 2026, so everything is AI related. The second point that really illustrates why a strong FeatureOps practice is essential is AI. Over 90% of developers are already using AI coding assistants to generate code. Google, by the way, says, as of, I think a couple of months ago, that they shipped 75% of their code using AI, which is something that is great for productivity, but it also greatly increases risk. And according to DORA, a 25% rise in AI adoption leads to a 7% drop in delivery stability. A peer-reviewed study of over 500,000 code repos found that AI-generated code is more likely to introduce critical security vulnerabilities. So that just kind of showcases the need and the necessity for FeatureOps. But like I said, FeatureOps, DevOps, they sound very similar. And I get a lot of questions about like, hey, isn't this just part of the normal DevOps lifecycle? So I want to spend a couple of minutes just really showcasing the difference of how FeatureOps sits on top of DevOps. And you can start to think of FeatureOps as an extension of your DevOps practices and what you're delivering to your customers. So let's look at FeatureOps. Let's look at DevOps first. Well, DevOps transformed how software is built and deployed and operated, introducing things like CI/CD, cloud infrastructure, and automation made it possible to ship code quickly and keep systems running reliably at massive scale. DevOps really is fundamentally concerned with getting code into production and ensuring that underlying systems are remaining healthy, available, and performant. But even at the height of maturity, DevOps struggles to control how deployed code behaves once it's running. And that's the gap that FeatureOps solves, right? We come in and where FeatureOps practices come to play is once your code is in production. So it's all about controlling code in production. AI, as we've talked about, has fundamentally changed how code is written, deployed. GitLab last month in their AI accountability reported that 81% of organizations feel that AI-generated code risks creating a new form of technical debt that organizations are not really prepared to manage. And technical debt is a big conversation when it comes to DevOps. And FeatureOps and the use of feature management and a feature management platform really helps alleviate some of that technical debt. And I'll go into kind of the nitty gritty of why that's the case in a few minutes, but just teasing it now for you. FeatureOps as a practice, like I mentioned, helps organizations manage risks with runtime governance and rollout controls. And again, I'll showcase this in product in a couple of slides from now. But you can think of FeatureOps, like I said, as controlling your code once it's in production from a single platform. And when I mentioned the Google Cloud outage last year, I didn't mention the Cloudflare outage last year as well. That I'm still recovering from not being able to log on to some of my favorite tools. Couldn't listen to music, couldn't watch anything. Cloudflare just took everything down. So you can really see like how an outage like that can really impact your business and impact your customers' business. But within that Cloudflare outage, when they did their postmortem, they committed to enabling more global kill switches. And kill switches and feature flags go hand in hand. So kill switches, feature flags, feature management, all a big portion of what FeatureOps is. Because with FeatureOps, every change is treated as reversible. So rollouts are more progressive. You're observing them as they're progressing, and they're guided by real production signals rather than just deploying everything to production and kind of hoping for the best. Feature flags are an essential component of that, but FeatureOps is bigger than flags alone. It's the engineering discipline of combining autonomous runtime control, progressive delivery, and observability. So speed and control remain compatible at an enterprise scale. And I'm kind of hammering home on a lot of these points because I think when you're looking at adding another vendor to your tool belt and what you're going in front of customers with, I don't want you to think of just like adding on Unleash licenses of like, hey, yeah, you need feature flags. We work with Unleash. I want you to think about FeatureOps as a services implementation practice that you can start to provide to your customers. So if you're talking to your DevOps customers, you're talking to maybe your GitLab customers, and you're talking about the full DevOps lifecycle, FeatureOps is now another kind of thought leadership that you can provide into your customers. And now is the time that I get to highlight a little bit more about Unleash and where we fit in to FeatureOps. You can think of Unleash as the control plane for modern software delivery. And what I mean by control plane is it means that developers can ship code as fast as they like, writing it the old-fashioned way. They can use AI coding assistants, agents. It doesn't really matter how the code is being written. Organizations at a higher level are able to stay in control of how that code appears in production and how it's managed in production. So that means that organizations are able to deliver faster, they have safer rollouts of features, and they also have the capability for instant rollback without having to redeploy everything when something goes wrong. And honestly, something always goes wrong. We're in the DevOps space, we're in developing tools. It's just, where would we be? Nothing is ever perfect. So all of that being said, let's take a step back for a moment. And I want to go over some fundamentals because I realize that I've been in the FeatureOps space for a little while now, and I talk about unleash and feature flags kind of on a daily basis. But if you're less familiar with feature flags and feature management, I thought I'd spend a couple of minutes of just going over some basics. So if you think about a traditional release cycle, a feature is exposed to every user at once. And then, like I said, if something breaks, and something always breaks, the only recovery option is to roll back the entire deployment rather than being able to roll back just a single feature. So what we talk about is decoupling deployment from release. So deployment, at the end of the day, you can think of it as when code arrives in a production environment, and then you can think of release as when users start to interact with that functionality. So basically, you're putting it behind a feature flag, but it blinds the feature itself from the users until you are completely ready to release it to a set of users. I think this is most common seen, or like the easiest example that I can provide is if you think about a website and you want to shift a sign-on feature of an admin coming on, like a single sign-on. If you're adding on an SSO feature, like you have Okta, but you want to add in Google, but you want to make sure that that's rolling out kind of to a smaller group, you're able to put that behind a feature flag and roll it out to a small percentage of your users. So you can start with 5-10% of users. And then if that works well, automatically have it go to 20% of your users, and then 50% of your users, and then 100% of your users. But know that, hey, if something suddenly goes wrong with Google sign-on, again, Google has an outage or it's something not on your end or your customer's end, you're able to toggle that off for all of the people that see it, like all of your users, and they're still able to log in via other methods. So they're able to just use their email login, or they're able to log in via Okta or another SSO feature. So like I said, feature flags separate deployment from release, meaning that you can ship code into production wrapped in a feature flag that makes it invisible to users, and then only flip the flag once the feature is ready. So what's a feature flag? A feature flag is a runtime switch inside an application that controls functionality and whether it is active without requiring redeployment. So it is kind of exactly what it says on the tin. It is a little toggle, a little flag within the platform that your developers have wrapped within the SDK. And then as an admin, or when they're ready, they can set it within the Unleash platform to toggle on and off or schedule a gradual deployment. So when you're talking to developers, the easiest way to start the conversation about feature flagging, I run into this a lot just in my different conversations with customers. Feature flag might not be the term that they're most familiar with. Like I said, they might be more familiar with feature toggle. It is a pretty ubiquitous practice at this point. So the way that I always frame it, if somebody is unfamiliar with like, hey, I don't know what a feature flag is, or I don't know what feature management is, it's just a conditional in your code. And since the condition is stored externally, it can be changed without touching the actual code base. So like I said, it's all about managing your code once it's in production. So it allows for you to manage code once it's in production without having to redeploy your entire code base. You can just go into the one feature with the feature flag attached to it. But it's not just a conversation for developers. I talk to a lot of like product managers and like CS engineers or release managers. And the way that they're most familiar with feature flagging or feature management is by kind of explaining to them that it's a remote on-off switch for any piece of your product, which really helps with experimentation and A/B testing. I'll go back to like kind of my website design example. I think Amazon is actually, they put a lot of effort into this A/B testing type of mentality, where they will roll out on their Amazon kind of storefront. They'll change a button to be blue versus yellow to see which performs better, which gets more clicks. So with feature flagging and with Unleash as a FeatureOps platform, experimentation and A/B testing is very, very simple to kind of roll out. And you can look at a comparison of where most teams are. Like I said, it's feature toggles and feature flags, for lack of a better term, is a pretty ubiquitous practice at this point. But most organizations, if they are using feature flags or feature toggles, it is just that simple on-off in a configuration file. But with Unleash, as a FeatureOps platform, teams are getting real-time control over feature exposure. So I've mentioned gradual rollout capabilities. With Unleash, you're also going to get audit trails for access control, role-based access control, and flag lifecycle management. So that flag lifecycle management is tying back into that technical debt that I mentioned earlier as part of FeatureOps. You're able to very easily clean up all of the flags. So say you roll out a feature, it's been in production, there's been no issues, or it's been like you ran the experiment and you decided to keep the feature, you're able to basically get rid of and delete that flag, so it's no longer so that your teams no longer have to maintain it. So what other things make Unleash a little bit different than other feature management platforms in the market? First, we're open source. So that kind of is baked into not only our product as an open source product, but it is really on how we operate as a business. It means that we're super transparent. We work very in depth with the community. It is a community proven product and it's fully extensible. In fact, there's already over 30 million downloads and counting. I think it increases on a daily basis. And there's 13,000 GitHub stars and thousands of production users. So when we're talking about Unleash, this is not, yes, we're a startup, but it's a product that has been in the open source community for years, and it's proven successful with open source users. Second, we fit into any environment. So this is a really big differentiator for Unleash versus some other feature flag SaaS offerings on the market. So we offer both self-hosted or cloud-hosted. You can run Unleash anywhere that meets your customer's unique requirements. So whether that's you're providing managed services and kind of hosting it yourself on their deployment, we offer, like I said, we offer self-hosted. So we have customers that are running in air-gapped environments. We're really big in regulated space for that reason. So you can rest assured that no matter where your customers are required to run their software, Unleash can work with them to ensure that they're still able to use the platform. And then finally, we're really truly enterprise grade. So like I mentioned, we have role-based access control, change control, audit logs. We offer data residency, global scaling. We provide it all as the vendor. And we're trusted by the world's most security conscious companies because it gives them full control. So there's no black boxes, there's no vendor lock-in when a customer chooses Unleash. And we're really proud of the organizations that we work with. So you'll see the logos that are listed here. These are all companies whose engineering teams, they move fast, but they never move recklessly. So let me highlight a couple of them. And these are public use cases that I'm more than happy to share after the call if you think it's helpful, or if you're talking to a customer that requires some proof points before getting into a trial or POC of a new product. So Prudential, for instance, they were facing a challenge of AI-driven development without breaking their production environment, and they wanted something that would support them while fitting into their existing change control process, where every flag flip is an audited event. So not only did we help implement Unleash with them, and they chose Unleash for this project, there's also a services opportunity around integrating ServiceNow. So approvals were logged. Approval logs were synced automatically. And that ultimately enabled thousands of developers to move quickly at Prudential while still meeting all of the really strict compliance standards. And Prudential, as a huge insurance firm, has really strict compliance requirements that we had to meet. Alternatively, we can look at another organization like Wayfair, where their challenge was really more, they were using a homegrown feature flag system, but it really couldn't keep up with the demands of holiday season shopping. So when they moved to Unleash, they were finally able to handle their Black Friday level traffic without disruption. And it saved millions compared to maintaining their own system. So that's another kind of customer proof point and customer use case that you'll run into when you start talking about FeatureOps is what's the difference between what we're currently doing now versus migrating to a supported vendor. And the cost of maintenance at the end of the day can always outweigh going with a vendor versus maintaining your own system. And then I want to highlight, again, you'll see a vast variety of logos on this slide. And that really shows that Unleash is not like, yes, we work with a lot of large enterprises, but we're not pigeonholed to a single type of vertical. I will say that a lot of regulated industries, you'll see a lot of banks and security organizations up here. They tend to favor Unleash because of our ability to offer those security controls and offer them to self-host Unleash on their own environment. But it's across the board, right? You'll see everything from insurance to technology to smaller banks to aerospace, right? It's across the board. There's not a single vertical that can't leverage something like Unleash or something like FeatureOps as a practice. And then just to kind of wrap it up from a feature flagging perspective, this is a great slide that I like to quote a lot, is managing flags without a platform is like tracking code changes without version control. So once you get to a certain scale, complexity exceeds what a team can manage manually. So like I said, there's the Wayfair example is a really good use case of this, of what you manage internally is often going to be a lot more cumbersome and expensive than going with something like Unleash. So to leave you with one more thought on the FeatureOps kind of practice as a whole, I hear from customers, I go to a lot of events, get to talk to a lot of community users of Unleash or people that are unfamiliar with FeatureOps or feature management. And they often say like, hey, this sounds great, but we can't really afford to add another step into our development process. We need to move faster, not slower. And I think this is a valid concern, right? But this is kind of the magical 1 + 1 = 3 of FeatureOps. When teams adopt FeatureOps, they are releasing code more frequently. They're running more experiments. They're spending less time debugging. Their productivity improves no matter how they're measuring productivity. And their risk is mitigated when something does inevitably go wrong. So when I talk to these customers about like, hey, we don't want to change our workflow, and with FeatureOps, there is a little bit of behavioral shift, much like rolling out a DevOps practice, rolling out FeatureOps, does require a little bit of change management. But if you're talking to organizations that are already deep into the DevOps kind of practices, FeatureOps is that natural fit. It's just adding on and kind of and shifting their perspective to how to focus on how they're managing their code once it's in production versus just getting code to production. So I will pause for a second before I move on. If there's any questions in the chat about FeatureOps, Olivia?
Not specific, just general. So maybe we'll save them for the end because I feel like I will get you answering for quite a while, if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. It was mainly an excuse to pause to get a drink of water. So I've gone over what FeatureOps is and who Unleash is, but let's dive in a little bit more to what the advantages of partnering with us. I'll start off by saying like I mentioned, we're an early partner, or we're a relatively new partner with Amazic, but we're early in our partner program. And we're basing our program development and evolution based on direct feedback from our partners. So getting in early and being a keystone partner really helps shape the program that you're going to be a part of, which I think is always a benefit to, hey, like this is going to help my business the most, Blair, please, can you implement something like this? Always open to suggestions and feedback from our partners. So not only are you able to support your customers in implementing FeatureOps practices, which is a services engagement in and of itself, especially from like the leadership perspective, going in and providing a full scale transformation initiative. FeatureOps is a key component of that. But then there's also the ability to lead implementation customization services engagements for organizations that are going through those modernization engagements or that are rolling out or migrating to Unleash. I find with a lot of enterprise customers that there is a lot of bespoke customization and kind of integration work that they request that's not scalable necessarily for Unleash to take on 100%. So we really lean heavily on partners when those instances come up to say like, hey, this is great, but we recommend working with one of our approved partners to help lead this integration work and customization to ensure that it meets the specific organization's requirement. So not only do we partner with Amazic, but we're also very heavy into the AWS ecosystem, meaning that there's a lot of opportunities around CPPOs with Amazic and tapping into the AWS incentive program. So more than happy to work with partners on that kind of route to market as well. And then, of course, we do offer channel partner discounts through Amazic with reselling. There's higher discounted or a higher percentage of discounts offered for partner sourced and multi-year deals. And then we also just launched something that we're calling Learning Labs that partners have early beta access to. And that is technical enablement that covers everything from introduction to FeatureOps to implementing Unleash at scale. And there's more content coming on in the weeks to come, months to come. We literally just launched it like 2 weeks ago. So it's kind of cool to see all of the early feedback and getting partners in to provide that feedback and click around and play around in the Learning Labs. Awesome. And then if you are interested in partnering, Olivia will be reaching out to everybody on the call. There's also a QR code here. Feel free to scan or go visit our partner page that gives you directs you to a form that directs you to me. But like I said, Olivia will be reaching out, and she's also a really great point of contact to reach out to. She knows how to get a hold of me very, very easily. So feel free, like I said, reach out to her. If you have questions, reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. We can chat. But yeah, I will stop and pause there.
Lovely. Thank you so much. Super interesting. We do have a few questions, so I'm just going to start reeling off, and then we can get into it. So, one from a partner is if I take Unleash to my customer, what are strong buying signals and what should my first point of engagement be?
So strong buying signals for us are um, basically what you would see. Let me go back. Strong buying signals or a strong indication of a customer requiring something like Unleash is if they're really leaning into AI code and using AI coding assistance. And that sounds cliche. Like I said, it's 2026. All everybody talks about is AI, but we really do see a lot of organizations. They the amount of code that they're pushing into production by leveraging coding agents is something that they can't manage fully. And you can even look at like all of the GitHub kind of capacity and outages recently, right? Like it's the coding and development space is changing so rapidly. And that use case of, hey, are you using feature flags? Are you using feature management? How are you controlling your AI code once it's in production? And with something like Unleash, they're able to see all of their code in production with the feature flags attached to it. We offer a 2-week POC through trial, and we have really high conversion rates with that, right? So once we get customers hands-on with the enterprise version of our product, they start to really see the benefits of it. So when we see customers convert, it's ultimately from like, hey, yeah, we are pushing so much more code into production. This is really helping us roll out and roll back, do gradual rollouts and gradual rollbacks as necessary. The other thing that I would look for too, which might be a different team, completely honest, rather than like a platform team or like a typical team that you're working with, is a lot of large organizations also have an experimentation team, and their goal is specific to running experiments and figuring out what's going to make the most sense. Like I said, and whether it's just UX design on their website or in their application, or if they're focused more internally on what's working, what's not working. So the experimentation piece is a big part of it as well, where you can really lean in and focus on the A/B testing like I said, I didn't really dive into this, but we do also have a rollout feature where you can target it to specific regions or to specific groups. So we obviously dog food our product a lot, but what we do is we'll roll a feature out internally, and it'll just hit everybody that is within Unleash, and then we'll gradually roll it out to like users in Norway or users in Europe as a whole, and then roll it out globally. So that's also a really key feature when you're starting to talk about experimentation and A/B testing. Yeah, I'll pause there. And if there's any follow-ups, happy to answer.
Don't worry. And then in terms of the best first engagement, I feel reach out to myself. I will loop Blair or the relevant AE in immediately, and you will have support from end to end of that selling cycle. It is absolutely a co-sell motion. You are not out there alone, and we will support in every way that we can. Following on from that, who is the ideal person I should target? So if I'm going to reach out to my customer tomorrow, who should I reach out to initially?
Yeah, it depends on the size of the organization. We see a lot of success with like IT managers or directors of platform engineering or managers of platform engineering. We do fit or see ourselves fitting in platform engineering for the most part. But like I just mentioned, there's the larger the organization, the more likely they are to have like an experimentation team. So it's probably still like a senior level experimentation lead or IT manager within the experimentation platform team.
Lovely. Perfect. When competing with Launch Darkly or an internal tool, what is it that sets you apart from the rest and what wins the deal?
Yeah. So honestly, what we see in people that are converting from Launch, I'll start with Launch Darkly and then I'll go for internal tool. Launch Darkly specifically, they they're SaaS, 100% SaaS. They don't offer the capability of self-hosting. And some of their security like features are lagging a little bit behind. And it's a great product. It works really well for a lot of organizations. But what we see when organizations migrate from LaunchDarkly to Unleash is really they like that they're able to have self-hosting capability. A lot of times they're looking for a product that can fit into an air gap environment or that it's FedRAMP approved, something along those lines from a security protocol perspective. But they're also looking at the usability, user interface, and then licensing. Our licensing model is a little bit different. We do price per user, and we have a calculator on our website that kind of shows the difference between LaunchDarkly pricing versus Unleash pricing, and we tend to come out a little bit more advantageous on that regard. And then if you're talking to an organization that has a homegrown product, the maintenance burden, I think, gets overlooked in a lot of those cases. So in those cases, we really do dive deep into the conversation with whoever owns that product. It's usually within the platform team. And we guide them along like, hey, how much time are you spending in cleaning up flags? Are you cleaning up flags? Do you even know how many flags that you have? Because for most homegrown solutions, they don't necessarily have like an easy user interface to see where all of their flags are at. It's kind of just hidden in their code. So like it does produce a little bit more technical debt, and it is a lot harder to manage because everything is managed manually. Whereas when they're looking at something like Unleash, there is a great user interface and admin portal that you can go in. You can see where all of your flags are. You can kind of delete flags, clean up flags as necessary, or we also have an MCP server that's available in the open source, but there's capabilities through that. You also have automatic flag cleanup using whatever AI coding feature that your customer is using.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you. Yasia, I have put the partnership link in the Q&A box for you. Next question is, do you do joint lead gen once a partner has signed up?
Yeah, we're more than happy to. Olivia knows this. We love doing like co-marketing events and lead generation activities. So we are more than happy to do that, partnered with Amazic as well, tapping into MDF capabilities that we have. So short answer, yes. Happy to have the discussion and figure out what makes the most sense for us.
Yes, wonderful.
And us meaning like us as in the partners and everybody involved, not just Unleash.
No, that's fine. Last two that I have are, what are the most common objections that you face?
I think I'll go back to the person who asked, like, how do you have the conversation when you're talking to somebody that's already using LaunchDarkly or a homegrown solution? I would say that those are the most common objections when we're just like cold calling out. Is it's either, frankly, I don't know what feature flags are, or I don't know what feature ops are, feature management, and then it's starting that conversation. But more often than not, it's probably a homegrown solution, or like, yeah, we have flags embedded in our code. So it's more of a conversation of like, well, again, how are you managing those flags? What is your technical debt associated with your current solution? And then talking to them about Unleash from there, either feature by feature or getting them on a demo, or like I said, we do offer a free trial. And then other common objections, I think I would say pricing's never really an objection. That's something that we're like that we're pretty competitive on, and that we work with partners on. So I'm trying to think of like all of the top objections that we normally face. But honestly, the biggest one is like, A, we already have a solution, or B, and they aren't familiar with feature flagging. They're more familiar with like toggling as it's embedded in code versus the entire FeatureOps as a practice.
Yeah, no, perfect. So it's all about diving deeper. No, I appreciate that. Last one is, how do I deal reg and do I get protection?
Yes, you do get protection. How do you deal reg? Reach out to Amazic. There is, we do have an email alias that we can send out after the fact. I unfortunately don't know it off the top of my head. I should not.
No, don't worry.
Olivia will add it to the email. But yes, if you shoot us an email, we do protect on deal reg. And we also accept deal reg on renewals. So existing customers that are up for renewal, if it's a joint customer, feel free to deal reg on those renewals.
Perfect. Okay, so that is all of the questions that we have. In terms of next steps, I would ask you all to go away and think of between 3 and 5 customers that you think are really going to be a great fit. Have the conversation and then reach out. I will send over follow-up materials, emails that you could send to your customer, the partner link, everything that you need to really get a successful opportunity off the ground. And we would love to support you with that. Unleash would love to support you with that. And we could be there from, as I said, the very beginning. So start to end of that development motion. But yes, well, thank you everybody for joining today. I'll send out all the materials that you need. And thank you, Blair, for joining us. It was really, really interesting.
Nice. Thank you all for joining. Thanks, Olivia, for setting this up. And like Olivia said, she'll reach out, but definitely reach out if there's any additional questions, or if you think of something in a couple of hours, feel free to reach out.
Wonderful. Right. Well, have a lovely rest of your day, everybody, and we'll speak soon.
Thank you.
Bye now.